You can't fake belief, and women know it before you ever say a word.
We're going live, baby.
We'll do it live.
You're listening to the premier podcast for men who want to not only be better with women, but want to be better men in general. This is the Come On Man podcast. And here's your host,
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer. He is a certified master life coach and NLP practitioner.
It's Friday, folks. Today is going to be a glorious day, I tell you. Glorious day. The weekend's looking to be great. I'm super excited about it. What about you guys? You guys excited for the weekend? Drop a 1 in the chat if you guys can hear me okay. Just a quick mic check. I want to make sure the equipment's working okay. If you guys are new to the channel, my name is Paul Bauer, and I help men level up and get better with women. And the funny thing about doing that is it tends to make us better men in all areas of our lives. Does this sound like you? You've heard you should act like the prize, but deep down, you still feel like you're hoping she'll pick you. You say the lines, you hit the gym, you dress better, but something's still off. Women don't respond the way they do to men who believe it at their core. Why? Because they can sense you don't fully feel it yourself. And that's what actually matters. This episode's not about surface tactics. It's about something far deeper. What you believe about yourself when no one is watching. By the end of today's show, you'll understand why that belief is the one thing standing between you and the attention, respect, and results you've been after. And if you've ever been, man, I need more coffee. If you've ever looked at a guy and wondered why do women go crazy for him even when he's not trying, then stay with me. But before we get into it, do be sure to like, subscribe, and hit those notifications. I do have new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday without fail. If you guys are watching live right now, which I see a bunch of you are, don't be shy. Sound off in the live chat. I want to hear from you guys, okay? If you have questions or really witty comments and stuff, I can bring it up on the screen and you can be a part of the show. But do consider, if you're finding value in these episodes, do consider sending a super chat. Or if you're watching on Facebook, you can send stars. I don't know how that works, but you can send stars, and all that helps support the show and gets me in front of more men. I do this full time. So if you are getting value, you're helping a brother out by throwing me a couple of ducats or two. Okay. All right. Let's talk about, let me put this back up here. Boop. All right. Let's talk about the problem, right? You think you're the prize, but you don't know it. Like, you don't believe it in your heart of hearts. Like, you tell yourself, you say, yeah, I'm the prize, but you don't act like the prize. Okay. So what does the prize really mean? I guess it's pretty subjective. But the way I like to think of it is, the book, How to Be a 3% Man by Coach Corey Wayne. He didn't get the concept of a 3% man. He didn't make that up himself. He got that from a guy named Doc Love. Doc Love wrote a book called The System years ago. And in The System, Doc Love estimated that only 3% of the world's population of men actually understands women and knows how to use that understanding of women to their advantage to have better, healthier relationships. And they know how to act in an attractive way that women are actually drawn to them, right? That's a guy I would say is the prize, the full package, the guy who's optimized his money, muscles, game, and frame, the guy who knows how to handle a woman's tests, a guy who knows how to set the tone and lead relationships, a guy who just in every aspect of life is just winning all the time. Okay, that's the prize. That's the prize. And a lot of you guys out there, deep down, you're not really the prize. You're just like every other dude out there, and you're not really setting yourself apart but you call yourself the prize because online all the time, they're always like, men are the prize. Okay. Men are the prize. Well, not just out the gate, men aren't inherently born a prize. See, women are born with their value. They are able to, like men are fawning all over them. All they have to do is keep their youth and beauty, and they are born with their value. Men have to become valuable. And that's just like, you can hate it. You can, get mad at that, but that's just a fact of life. Okay. So the prize, the real prize is the full package. Okay. Now, most guys use the phrase as a defense mechanism, not really a reflection of their own identity. So a lot of guys say it to protect their ego after rejection. It's kind of like saying, you can't fire me, I quit. Right. Your boss calls you in the office and he's like, look, man, you're just not performing well. We're going to have to cut you loose. And you're like, you can't fire me. I quit. I never liked this place. And you walk off. No, you were still fired. Like, they rejected you first. You know what I mean? So a lot of guys will, they'll do that after a breakup. They're like, well, she doesn't know that what she's losing here. I'm the prize. Like, okay, but something about you wasn't the prize to her, at least. Right? Because if you were the prize to her, she wouldn't be dumping you or rejecting you. She would be trying everything in her power to keep you. You see what I'm saying here? So were you really the prize? Also, if you have to tell people that you're the prize, you're not really the prize. It's kind of like walk around telling everybody that you're an alpha. I'm an alpha male. Okay. It's what you don't have to tell people that you're an alpha male. They just know, right? They just know. So the same thing with you're the prize. You don't have to tell people. If you truly believe in your heart of hearts that you're the prize, you're going to get prize level reactions for people. You don't have to say anything. They already know. They already know. Why women see through surface level confidence? Well, here's the thing. You can talk a good game, but if you don't believe it in your heart of hearts, your body language is going to give you away. Your body language, the tone of your voice, you're going to be very hesitant when you go to say things. You're not going to be very direct and confident. And women can sort of sniff this stuff out. And even if you're pretty good at acting and getting through that stuff, that's where women's, we're not at the 8-minute mark. That's where women's fitness tests come into play. They will test you and see how you're going to react in the moment. And if you don't react in a way that a prize would, and you lose your crap at her and tell her off and hold her accountable, she's going to know right there, well, this guy ain't it. He's not that guy. He's not that guy, pal. And a big problem with a lot of guys today is we're all raised to be nice guys, nice guy syndrome. And so we're raised from a very young age to seek approval from other people, even while posturing for dominance in the situation. You're still wanting other people's buy-in on things. You still want other people's validation on things. And that seeking that out becomes apparent. You can see it especially when you start studying this stuff. You can see when other people are trying to sort of blow smoke up your ass to try to sell you a bunch of nonsense about how important they are, right? Identity versus performance. So you may even perform being high value, but subconsciously you're still seeking validation. And I'm guilty of this. I'm not just beating up guys on the internet, like I've been where every one of you has been. And I've done decades of work now, or at least a decade of work now of working on this kind of stuff and really trying to change my mindset and my behavior and my demeanor so that I show up differently, not just in relationships, but in all areas of my life. Right. But I was like this back when I used to do IT work. And before I started, working on this stuff and intersexual dynamics and psychology and all that kind of stuff. I was that guy, right? Like I knew that I was doing a good job. I was a damn good systems engineer, network engineer. I could run an old, an old rusty pop can on an Ubuntu rig if I wanted to, like I could set up whatever, right? So I knew I was for a long time, the company I was working with, I worked, the last company I had, we were a startup before we got acquired, and I would literally carry that company on my back. I was the head of IT, and the entire infrastructure rested on my back, right? And so I knew I had to do a good job, or else they would let me go. And there was no other IT jobs around, so I had to like absolutely kill it at everything I did, right? And so I was carrying the company on my back. Yeah, I still needed to hear from my bosses and coworkers that I was doing a good job. Like it fueled me. I needed that. So I used to tell myself, I was a words of affirmation guy. Like if you buy into the love language bullshit, it's love languages are bullshit. So I would tell myself, I'm just a words of affirmation guy. No. I'm a validation seeking guy. That's really what my problem was, right? So I was really an insecure guy seeking reassurance and validation that I was doing a good job. I needed to hear that. Then I would feel more secure in my job. Otherwise, I didn't feel secure in my job, even though I knew in my heart of hearts that I was doing a great job and that things were working well and things were humming along. I still wanted to hear it from other people. How are you like that in your relationship? Like, and I would do that in my relationship with a red pill chick. I would, constantly go, "Are you happy?" Like if things were quiet and it just seemed like, I'd start getting in my head, and I would be like, "Are you happy? Do I make you happy?" And all this kind of stuff. If you have to do that in your romantic relationships, that's you're feeling insecure and you're seeking validation, which is really unattractive behavior. She's going to see that and go, "Why? Of course things are going to go. Why is he asking this kind of thing?" Right? Like he seems very insecure. That's very unattractive behavior. I like to sprinkle in a little woo-woo, a little law of attraction here. There's a concept in law of attraction that you don't get what you want, you get what you are, right? You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So you won't ever truly be the prize and attract prize women yourself, or get the prize jobs yourself or whatever, until you believe it deep down in your heart of hearts that you truly are the prize. You have to believe it at a subconscious level that you are the prize before you'll really start acting that way out of habit. All right. And when you truly believe it and you start carrying yourself that way out of habit, only then will you truly be the prize. You have to actually become that thing to attract what you want. Yeah. A great example of this would be a great example of a guy who would probably call himself the prize, but actually wasn't a prize at all, would be the pickup artist Mystery. Okay. And I'm not saying this to crap on the legendary Mystery. Okay. But if you ever read the book, The Game, Mystery was the kind of guy who had all the right moves. He could say all the slick shit to get chicks in bed with him. He was picking up chicks left and right, but he couldn't keep any of these chicks around. He couldn't keep any of them around. He would, and then there was one that he was always after, Natasha or some shit like that. I don't know, some Russian name or whatever. He would constantly spiral into depression because of his one itis for this one girl that he couldn't keep on lock, because he really wasn't the prize, and she would eventually kind of get tired of his crap, and he would eventually push her away with his unattractive behavior, and then he would spiral downwards, right? But on the surface, a lot of guys would go, "Oh yeah, no, Mystery's the man. Like he's the pimp. He's the king of fucking pickup, right?" But he really wasn't, because in his heart of hearts, he didn't believe it. You see? Does any of this sound like you at all? Drop a 1 in the chat. Or, at least if this was once you, drop a 1 in the chat, just give you some plausible deniability. While you guys are doing that, Do follow me on social media. The links are in the description. I'm on all the good platforms. My Facebook account is absolutely blowing up right now. Which in X isn't. X was growing for a little bit there, and now it's slowed down again. But Facebook is still growing. I think I'm at 91,000 followers now, almost 92,000 followers now. It's crazy. Y'all on Facebook are great. Give yourselves a pat on the back. Guys, you can sponsor a video on Tuesday afternoons. I'm going to be doing sponsored videos from guys that take advantage of this. They go to video.comeonmanpod.com and they write in a specific question, whatever their problem is, and then I give them a dedicated video and advice based on their specific situation. Let me drop a link for that in the chat if you guys want to take advantage of that. And then, guys, do be sure to grab my free ebook, She's Made You Weak. This explains why attraction tends to erode over time in long-term relationships. Should be the top link in the description, I think. If not, go to ebook.fixeddeadbedrooms.com to grab that free ebook. And then while you're looking at books of mine, in the description, I do have a great book that really goes hand in hand with what we're talking about today. It's called Psychology Paradigm. It's a part of the Essential Skills of a Masculine Presence series. It's available on Amazon and Audible. The links are in the description for that. Let me play a quick commercial for that, and then we'll get back to the topic today.
Have you ever felt like something's holding you back in your relationships? Like you're always on the back foot, struggling to connect with women? You're not alone. Many men are taught to be weak, to defer, to play small around women by their upbringing, by society, by the very world that shaped them. But what if you could break free from the invisible chains that have held you back? What if you could rewrite the script, reprogram the paradigm that's been running your life? This is your chance to step into the man you were always meant to be. In the Essential Skills of a Masculine Presence, Psychology Paradigm by Paul Bauer, the first book in R.P. Thor's groundbreaking series, you'll learn how to understand and transform the paradigms that have shaped your life. You'll discover how to develop a dominant masculine presence, one that commands respect, inspires trust, and brings fulfillment to your relationships. Don't wait for life to change on its own. Take control. Order your copy of The Essential Skills of a Masculine Presence, Psychology Paradigm now on Amazon. Available in hardcover, paperback, or on Kindle. This is more than a book. It's your roadmap to a life of purpose, strength, and success. Make the decision today. Reprogram your life and step into the man you were meant to be.
Indeed. Nurse Chick's in the house. She says, good morning, gentlemen. You guys know Nurse Chick. She gets this one.
I'm so naughty.
She is.
I'm going to come.
And I will. That's true. All right. Let's get back to it. Why just saying it doesn't work, okay? If you are the kind of guy that's relying on reaction rather than belief in yourself, you're operating in her frame. If you are always worried about what she's doing and what she's not doing and how she's reacting to you, you're operating in her frame. Okay. One of the newer brothers in Wolfpack is going through this right now. And this isn't to crap on him, because every guy that is going through this right now is doing the same thing. Okay. So, but just pointing it out, he's a relatively new guy, and he's been posting a lot in the group, which is good, because when you do join the Wolfpack, if you just join and just sit back and lurk, you're not going to get any value out of it. But if you join the group and ask questions and participate, you're going to get a tremendous amount of value out of it. Okay. So this guy's going through this. He's constantly focused on what his wife is doing and not doing. And he feels the urge to get her opinion on the status of the relationship. You know, he wants to see, like, how would you rate our relationship? You know, like that sort of thing. Corey Wayne talks about this in How to Be a 3% Man. He talks about, he has an article called Rate Me Baby or something like that. And it's all about like a monthly check-in with your girl to see how she's feeling. That can be validation seeking if you don't do it right. Okay. But the thing is, so this brother in the Wolfpack, he's still operating in her frame, which is unattractive behavior. And so that's one of the hardest things, especially if you guys are going through this book, right? The get her to fuck you again and you're trying to like fix your relationship. If you are doing this, and then as you're doing the exercises and the things I talk about in that book, and you're looking for a reaction from your wife, you're operating in her frame. Okay. So the hardest thing is to do all this stuff for you and sort of ignore her reactions to things at the same time, because only then will she actually start coming back around. It's very counterintuitive. Okay. But your subconscious, it always outs you. Your tone, your posture, your timing, just your general energy that you bring to interactions. And you can fake it for a while, like mystery. You can fake it for a while, but until you really internalize it, your true colors will always show up eventually. She will be able to sniff this out. Women are very good at reading body language and tone and really just sort of seeing things, like reading between the lines. Women are very good at subtext. That's why when you get into arguments with her, she's very rarely is listening to the words coming out of your mouth. She's reading your body language and tone. And that's telling her how to feel. It makes her feel a certain way. And so it doesn't matter how logical you get. She's feeling a certain way, right? And that's why communication is not the key to a healthy relationship. Okay. I got a story for you guys. Imagine walking into a place that smells like leather, money, and quiet power. That's exactly where Marcus found himself one bright afternoon. He wasn't just dressed for success. He was wrapped in it. Smooth charcoal suit, Italian shoes with a whisper soft tread, a watch that caught the light just enough to get noticed, but not enough to look desperate. He moved the way a man should move, deliberate, relaxed, like he belonged. Heads turned. That always felt good, right? Now picture the showroom. Polished marble floors, high ceilings, that soft background jazz playing just loud enough to make silence expensive. A salesman named Tyler saw Marcus and didn't hesitate. He walked over with a smile, already smelling the commission. He knew that walk. He knew that look. And Marcus, he played it cool. Asked about the Porsche, the Bentley, nodded at all the right specs, laughed at the price like it didn't matter. He sounded like a man who had done this before, and maybe he had on the surface. But something changed. Tyler offered him a seat, pulled out a sleek black tablet. We'll just run some numbers, he said casually. You financing or buying outright? That's when it happened. A pause, a flicker in the eyes. Marcus adjusted his posture, looked away for half a second too long, and in that pause, Tyler knew. He felt the drop. It's subtle, but unmistakable. You know that feeling when someone's saying all the right words, but something doesn't add up? That's what this was. Marcus wanted to be the man who could buy the car, but deep down, he knew he wasn't. And Tyler had seen that energy before. Now let that settle for a moment, because here's the part most men miss. This is exactly how dating feels to women. You walk in confident, you've got the lines, the look, the vibe, and for a few minutes, it works. But then the moment comes, the moment where real belief is required. And if your emotional bank account is overdrawn, if your subconscious knows you're bluffing, it shows. Not in what you say, in what you can't hold. Your energy dips, your presence falters, your body reveals the story your mouth tries to hide. And she knows it instantly. She might not say it, but she feels it the same way Tyler did. Now take a breath and really hear this. You can wear confidence like a suit, or you can live it like a skin. The difference, one is borrowed and the other is built. You can rehearse your way into a room, or you can reprogram who you are before you ever walk in. Which one do you think actually gets respect? Now ask yourself, what would happen? What could happen if your belief was real? What would it feel like to walk in without needing to prove anything because the man you say you are already lives in you? That question, that's the showroom you need to step into next. The subconscious doesn't lie, brother. Subconscious doesn't lie, and it doesn't care what your mouth says. While you think on that, let me ask you guys a question. Who wants to run with the wolves?
Bear club? Not anymore.
You fix what's broken. You lead like a man again. No pity, no therapy. Just fire, just flame. Cold bed, broken home, midlife drift, feeling alone. You don't need hacks, blogs, lies. You need men with fire in their eyes. We rebuild from the ground up. No excuses, no soft stuff. Telegram lit 24/7. Brothers locked in steel, not ever. Step inside the pack. We don't fall, we attack. Truth, fire, presence, we bring it back. Masculine pride, no time to slack. Step inside the pack. Drop your past, claim your track. No therapy talk, no playing small. We sharpen blades, we take it all.
Yes, guys, join Wolfpack. And don't forget, tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern time is going to be our private pod class for the Wolfpack. Only members, and it's only for the Wolfpack members, I should say. And it's going to be on cryptocurrency investments. So if you've been thinking about getting into crypto, you've been hearing all the news about Ethereum and how it's like blowing up right now, and you've been talking about getting into the market for years and you just don't know how to do it, get in Wolfpack. It's only $10 a month. And Brother Kamal, he's one of our leading experts on crypto investing. He's going to give us a clinic tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So do that. And then, guys, if you want to work with me directly, you can book a call by going to call.fixdeadbedrooms.com. All right. All right, let's talk about some actionable information. Okay. Have any of you guys ever read anything by Neville Goddard? Have you guys ever heard of Neville Goddard? I just did. Was it last week's Frame Friday was all on the law of assumption, which is a sort of something that Neville Goddard teaches. Well, one of the things that Neville teaches is that everything you attract is a reflection of who you are in consciousness, right? Like, it basically means like who you believe yourself to be. That's who you, that's what you tend to attract in this world. All right. It's one of the things that he talks about too is fascinating. Brother Jeff from the Wolfpack sent it to me. It was like a 2-hour long lecture from Neville Goddard. And one of the things that he talks about is a lot of people, when they're trying to attract things into their life, right? They have this desire, and from the moment they plant that seed, they're constantly wondering when they're going to attract that thing or reach that goal. Okay, let's use that terminology because some of you guys don't like the woo-woo. So you have this goal in mind and you want to achieve this goal and you don't know how you're going to do it, but you're working towards it and you're constantly wondering when you're going to achieve this goal. And the thing is that if you're constantly wondering when you're going to achieve this goal, you tend to stay stuck in places and you never actually achieve that goal. And a lot of it it's subconscious, because your subconscious, it needs to believe that you've already achieved that goal for it to grind away to make that a reality for you. But if you're constantly saying, when am I going to get this? You're subconsciously telling yourself, I don't have it already. And your subconscious just says, yeah, you're right. You don't have it already. And just sort of keeps you there. Right. And so one of the things that he says is you got to stop focusing on when you're going to achieve this goal and realize that just the seed being planted that you have this goal makes it already true. It's already happening for you. So instead of worrying about when it's going to happen, you have to realize that that in between time of when you plant that seed and when you actually get that goal, that whole process is you becoming the guy that would have that goal. Right? Like that's kind of mind blowing if you think about it, because let's say you want to be a wealthy millionaire and your whole life you've lived in poverty. In order to keep that money once you get it, you have to learn to have the mindset of someone that would have that kind of money. You would have to learn how to become the kind of guy that would earn that kind of money. Right? So that whole process of going from absolute poverty to riches is a process of you becoming that guy. Okay? But the seed's already been planted. You already have this. If you believe in the quantum theory of things where all possibilities exist at once, like you're now living in the possibility that you have this stuff, but you still have to become that guy. Right? It doesn't just magically happen, because if you get that money before you become that guy, like you win the lottery or something like that, you're going to blow it. You're going to lose it all within a couple of years. That's why a vast majority of lottery winners are back at square one within a couple of years, because they never became that guy that would keep that kind of money. Do you see? Okay. It's fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff. Paradigms can be reprogrammed, but only through consistent internal repetition with conviction and feeling. Okay. I talk about it quite extensively in Psychology Paradigm, right? But it's not just repeating words over and over again, that repetition by itself. It's the feeling behind those words that really, really cement that stuff in. Right. So, and going back to Neville Goddard says affirmations without the feeling behind it are just meaningless words. So you have to, like, let's say you're a guy that does affirmations, which I highly recommend. I think I talk about affirmations in all my books. But if you're the kind of guy that uses affirmations, you have to, as you're saying them, picture yourself already having achieved that. Like, what would that feel like, right? How would you act? So going back to being the prize, you have to imagine what it feels like to be the prize. How would you act? How would you act in that moment? How would you act when a woman responds the way she would with the man to you, right? How would that make you feel? Like if a woman, if you, like, let's say you saw a movie with like a handsome leading character and a woman's just picture James Bond, like how women react to James Bond. If you were that guy, if you were in Bond shoes, how would that feel? Having like these hot women walk up to you and sort of give you the eyes and all this kind of stuff. How would that make you feel? You have to sort of think about that in the moment, right? Feel that feeling in the moment. And so as you're saying those affirmations, picture that scene in your head and really focus on how good you feel, right? You would probably feel really confident. You might even have tingles in your arms, right? You might have, like almost like a giddy feeling. I see guys in the wolf pack all the time when they hit it off with a chick and she's totally into whatever they're doing. It makes them feel good, right? How would that make you feel? You got to sort of concentrate on that sort of thing. Another woo-woo guy that I study is a guy named Wallace D. Wattles. He wrote a phenomenal book called The Science of Getting Rich. And if you guys go to my YouTube channel and look at my playlists, I did a whole series on the science of getting rich. So if you don't want to read that book and you just want my take on it, go check out that playlist. But he would always talk about how you have to act in the certain way. Act in the certain way. And a lot of that is you're not doing it out of desire for a thing, but out of identity, right? So if you desire something, if you were still wishing for it, you're telling your subconscious you don't have it, right? So likewise, if you tell yourself you want to be the prize, your subconscious only hears that you're not the prize. You're not really the prize. You're just faking it right now. You're just a geek with techniques. You're just Mystery, the pickup artist. So instead, you must not only tell yourself that you're the prize, right? So like going back to the beginning, some guys tell themselves that they're the prize, but they're not, but they're still getting ignored. So you can't just tell yourself you're the prize. You have to do it in the present tense. You also have to feel like you're the prize until you don't have to tell yourself that you're the prize anymore. Is this resonating with you guys? You have to tell yourself that you're the prize and actually feel like what it would be like to actually have these women would respond to you in a certain way. And then once you start actually doing this sort of thing, you're going to start carrying yourself that way. You're going to walk with your shoulders back, your chest out. You're going to have a little more pep in your step. You're going to have a little more confidence. You're going to walk in and sort of just assume chicks like you, right? When things started clicking for me, right? When I started studying this stuff and I started getting better at dating, one of the things that I would do is I would listen to, and I still do this, but not this particular affirmation, but I would listen to recorded affirmations at night. And what's cool about that is as you're sleeping, you're dreaming this stuff. And so that means like you're basically living it in your dream. It's fascinating. It's fascinating when you wake up from a deep sleep and you could recognize that your dream is following along with the affirmations that you're listening to. Like when you sort of like have to go to the bathroom at night and you sort of become somewhat coherent and you can hear the affirmations and it's picking up right where your dream left off. Like that's a cool feeling, right? It's a cool feeling, but I would tell myself that I was the most handsome man in Colorado and that women would be coming up to me and talking to me and women would whatever. And it would happen because I would sort of expect it to happen. I would walk around the supermarket and I would happen to notice chicks looking at me and stuff like that. And some people might laugh at that, whatever. I don't care. It was really happening. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. When you do this sort of thing, it starts to actually show up for you. And it's not that it wasn't happening before. It's a lot of it was you didn't notice it before, you know, that's the whole like reticular activating thing. Okay. 3 stages of belief. You have your intellectual understanding of it, right? So you know what you should be, on paper, right? You should be working on your money, muscles, game, and frame and be the whole package kind of guy. But then you got to, then you have this emotional contradiction, right? You feel disconnected from it because you're not there. You're not really there yet. You're not that guy. Okay. So you're like, I know I should be that guy, but I'm just not. I'm not getting the results. I'm not seeing it. So then the next stage is embodying that identity, right? You are it before anyone else sees it. Okay. This is sort of acting as if and, sort of faking it until you make it. But as you're doing that, acting as if and faking it until you make it, you have to really mentally start trying to force yourself to feel what it feels like to be that guy as if it's already true. Okay. And then once you're doing that and you're feeling the feeling as if it's already true, eventually it becomes a habit and you don't have to actively start forcing that feeling and start imagining and visualizing that feeling and acting as if. You just act this way now. Now it's a habit, you see? So there's some different suggestions or different practices that I would suggest on a daily basis that you could do. A mental diet, right? Cut out thoughts that reinforce I'm not enough, right? Stop watching negative content online. Stop, paying attention to what women say in the comments. I don't pay attention to any of the negative crap I get. Some people I just rub people the wrong way sometimes, like, oh, okay, especially online when you're trying to get people's attention, sometimes you have to say inflammatory things to grab attention because there's so much content out there we're all sort of competing for people's attention and eyes. So sometimes I say like outrageous crap online just to grab your attention. And I'm like, okay, hey, now that I got you here, here's some actionable information that can actually help your life. Right. Anyway. So cut that out, cut out the negativity. One thing, getting away from women and stuff like that. One thing that I cut out several years ago, and I highly recommend you cut out, is the news. The news is nothing but fear and propaganda to get you in your emotions, to keep you tuning back in. And like 95% of the crap they talk about on TV has no impact on your daily life. And once I cut that out and I stopped focusing on the pro wrestling that is politics, because politics, the Democrats versus Republicans, it's all one big WWE fucking SummerSlam match, right? It's all bullshit. And people, they're just saying all this different stuff to get you in your feelings and emotions. Meanwhile, in back rooms, they're shaking hands on policies that actually screw you over, right? So like I just cut that crap out. I realized, man, how negative is that? And since I did that, man, my mental health is just so much better. So much better. You want to do some visualization with emotion, right? I do a morning scripting exercise every morning. First thing I get up, I grab a coffee, I grab my vitamins for the day, and then I take those, and then I sit down. And what I've been doing lately is just writing out a sort of a story from the first person perspective of what my life looks like in the future, as if it's already happening. And the cool thing about writing it out and just sort of talking about all the cool things that are happening is I can picture this in my head. Like, have you ever written a story out and you're picturing that story in your head? That's visualization. So scripting that stuff out really helps with that visualization. And then just like, you almost immerse yourself in the story, picturing it, and like you almost can't help but feel the feeling of having already achieved it, right? It's kind of a fun exercise. I love doing it every morning. Inner dialogue auditing you can start doing. So catch moments where you're still trying to be chosen, right? Or for instance, let's say you're working on turning your marriage around, right? And you're sort of you're still focused on what your wife's doing or not doing and what kind of reaction she's doing. Okay. Catch yourself in the moment. A lot of this requires awareness, but realize you're doing it and shake it off and be like, I don't need to focus on her. I need to focus on me, and just keep doing that until you stop focusing on her. And then you'll notice that things just miraculously start changing. Right. And for the love of God, watch that negative self-talk. A lot of you guys don't even realize how bad your negative self-talk is. But if you're constantly putting yourself down, saying, oh, I'm so stupid, or I'm such an idiot, or man, I really blew that with that chick, right? Like that's negative self-talk, and it's not helpful. It actually just reinforces in your subconscious that you're not good enough. You see what I'm saying? So you need to really watch that sort of thing. Instead of like, let's say you do go on a date and it doesn't go as well as you had hoped. Don't look at it like, oh, I'm so stupid and I suck at this and, women hate me and whatever. Like, look at it like, I could have done this better. I could have, what? I think I was talking too much. I think I was giving a little too much away. I think I could do this better and maybe practice the 80-20 rule a little bit better. Whatever. Just look at it like a learning opportunity and make it a positive, right? And then practice some emotional rehearsal. You can do this sort of thing in the mirror, right? But practice the feeling of being the chooser, not the applicant, especially when it comes to women, right? You want to be the guy that's choosing women. You don't want to be the guy that's being chosen by women. And that is all just a mental shift where you go into a date. And the best way I can describe this is going to a first date. It's about a chemistry test. You're not trying to make anything happen. You're just trying to see if you like her or not. If as soon as you change your mindset about dating to that, then you become the buyer. You become the chooser because you're just going in to see if you like her. You don't care if she likes you. You're the buyer, not the seller, right? But this emotional rehearsal, right? Imagine yourself walking to the room and the music stops. Everyone turns to look at you. Women walk up to either say something or at least put themselves in your orbit. Picture this in your head right now. How do you feel? How do you feel when you walk in that room and like the piano stops playing and everyone looks over at you, and then you walk out to the center of the floor and you have 3 girls pass by giving you the eye and stuff like that, like James Bond? How does that feel? Pay attention to those feelings. Remember those feelings. Feels good, right? So when you're trying to picture this in your head, being that guy, remember those feelings and feel that way. In NLP, we call setting an anchor. So if you ever want to practice this, this is a fascinating thing you can do. Go through a vivid imagination scenario like that, where you're picturing yourself in this cool situation where you're actually achieving whatever it is that you want to achieve, and you really start thinking about the emotions and how you're feeling about it, and then like pinch your fingers together like this, right? Or pinch your earlobe or something. That's called an anchor, right? It's you're anchoring that feeling and emotion with a sensation or an action, right? And sometimes if you do that multiple times, you go through that visualization process, you get into the feeling, anchor it again, do that 2 or 3 times, anchor it again. Then when you actually go to a place where they're playing a piano, like let's say you go to a fundraiser gala, right? Like a local hospital fundraiser gala, something. And you want to feel that feeling of being James Bond in the moment. If you properly anchor it, all you have to do is like pinch your ear or pinch your fingers together to evoke that emotion in the moment. So you start acting that way in the moment. It's called an anchor. It's an NLP technique. It's pretty cool. So your subconscious identity of being the man, or as the goal of this book, your subconscious identity of having a dominant masculine presence, that's the engine, having that identity. And if you really want to work on an identity for yourself, one of the other books in this series, the one that I helped Thor do the audiobook for and do the formatting for, is called The Superhero Inside. So Thor's second book, The Superhero Inside, really is about honing that identity and really cementing that into your subconscious so that you can call upon it in the moment to feel more confident in whatever. The whole Essential Skill series is great. But you can't you can't run premium results on low octane beliefs, I have written here. A great way to effortlessly work on this sort of thing is with the right books. Particularly, I would say audiobooks, right? So it's something I learned from Bob Proctor and Corey Wayne. I first heard it from Corey Wayne. I was reading How to Be a 3% Man, and he was recommending that you read his book 10 to 15 times. And the reason he gave that was because we only retain about 10 or about 10% of what we read or listen to. And so if you really want to consume a book and make the teachings of the book a part of who you are, you have to listen to it at least 10 to 15 times, he would say. But a guy named Bob Proctor, he passed away a year or two ago. He became a millionaire in his 20s running a floor cleaning business, and he attributed it to listening to a particular self-help record, because at the time it was a record player, but he would listen to a self-help record every night on repeat while he worked. And as his business grew, he started making his employees listen to this. And it was The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. And Bob Proctor also read and reread Think and Grow Rich every day for like 60 years, right? Well, that repetition and listening to the audio, all that kind of stuff, seeped into his subconscious, and he eventually like just started acting like he was already a millionaire, and he eventually became a millionaire. And when he finally, he said he was sitting in a casino in England, and he was just blowing all sorts of money. And he was like, I don't care, because I know I'm going to make more money. And he couldn't explain how he had gotten to that place, because only a couple of years before he was broke. He said that he made $4,000 a year and owed $8,000, and so he was absolutely broke until someone gave him Think and Grow Rich. And then within a couple of years, he was running his own floor business in 3 different countries and was a millionaire. And when he finally had the epiphany that it was, hey, I've been reading Think and Grow Rich and listening to The Strangest Secret like every day on repeat, that's what reprogrammed my subconscious, right? So what did he do? He sold his business, and then he moved to Chicago and started working with Earl Nightingale at the Nightingale Conant Company, because he wanted to learn under the learning tree of Earl Nightingale and be like, how did I become this millionaire? Like, what was it that I, from your books and audio that I'm missing here? And then he ended up becoming a full-time motivational speaker and stuff like that. But that repetition seeped into his subconscious. And today we're talking about being the prize. And one might even say that man who is considered a prize by women has a dominant masculine presence. And my book was designed to help you rewire your mind to have a more dominant masculine presence. So I invite you in the book to actually listen to this on repeat. So if you grab it on Audible, listen to it on repeat, because that alone, just listening to it 10 to 15 times, will rewire what's up here. Just listening to that audiobook will rewire what's up here, so that you actually believe that you're the prize. And when you believe it, when you really truly believe it at a subconscious level, you're going to carry yourself that way. You won't have to tell anybody, and you won't have to seek out that validation. You'll see it. You'll see it all around you in people's reactions and stuff. All right. Tune in. That's all I got, guys. Tune into the podcast on Monday. We're going to be talking about why women pull away and what to do about it. I talked a little bit about it on Tuesday's stream, but we're going to go into depth on Monday. So that should be fascinating. But otherwise, that's all I got. Do be sure to like, subscribe, hit those notifications. I do have new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday without fail. Thanks to everyone that sounded off in the live chat. There's a ton of people watching, but a bunch of you guys are quiet. No super chats today. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. But I'll tell you what, if you guys get value out of these going forward, please consider sending a super chat. That helps support the show probably more than it should. Follow me on social media. The links are in the description. Grab my books. They're all available on Amazon or Audible. And today we're really focusing on concepts from Psychology Paradigm. So if you haven't read that yet, grab it. If you have read my books and you haven't done so already, please, I would like to invite you to leave a review on Amazon or Audible, especially if it helped you out. It's really hard to get good reviews on books. If people hate things, they're happy to stop what they're doing to complain about it. But people that genuinely like things, it's really hard to get people to leave reviews. So if you enjoyed my books, please consider leaving a review. I would appreciate that. Guys, don't forget, you can sponsor a video for Tuesday nights. If you have a question you want me to answer, go to video.comeonmanpod.com and sponsor a video, and you'll have a dedicated video made for you on Tuesdays. And then if this gets really popular, we'll do those on Thursdays as well. Get in Wolfpack. We are having our monthly private pod class tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time. It's going to be on crypto investing and how to get in, especially if you've never done it before. And plus, you get access to the Wolfpack and all the value that we provide in the Wolfpack, and it's only $10 a month. It's probably the most affordable thing on the internet for something like that. And then, guys, if you want to work with me directly, you can book a call by going to call.fixdeadbedrooms.com. That's all we got. We will see you guys on Monday.
This has been the Come On Man podcast. Now, go out and get it.